What would you do if you woke up tomorrow morning, but instead of it being just a regular Monday, it was a 10 years in the future Monday? And to make matters worse, your mortal enemy is spooning you.
I have questions.
Thus is the premise of Stupid Wife, a sexy, melodramatic, and absolutely ridiculous Brazilian web series that is essentially fan fiction come to life. Now, is Stupid Wife the most brilliant web series I've ever watched? No, but I can't remember the last time I had more fun watching anything. So I invite you to experience Stupid Wife with me. But before we dive into the insanity that is Stupid Wife, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Scentbird. Now, I'm sure all of you smell absolutely lovely, but a small, large percentage of you have been wearing the same scent since your freshman year of high school. Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service that lets you choose a new designer fragrance to try out every single month. And when I say designer, I'm talking Prada, Gucci, Versace. You can also try out some really cool indie colognes and perfumes no one has ever heard of, thereby making you infinitely cooler than everyone you know. And for those of you who aren't quite sure which fragrance to try, Scentbird has a quiz on their website that matches your preferences to fragrances that would be a good fit for you. Also, each fragrance comes with a 30-day supply, and you get more than enough to figure out whether you want to commit to a full-size bottle. They also come in these sleek, easy-to-use cases that house the perfume vials. This month, I got to try out Au Naturel by Christian Serrano. I also tried Love Me by Tous and Cherry Blossom by L'Occitane in Provence.
That doesn't sound right.
My favorite fragrance of the three is Love Me by Tous. It's a little floral, it's a little fruity, and it's a little musky. A good kind of musky. And at $17 a month, it's super affordable. In fact, they're currently running a holiday special. So if you use the link in my description box, you'll get 60% off from now until December 5th. And if you're watching this after December 5th, no worries, because you can still use my code, Evelyn Dar, to get 55% off your first month, making it just a little over $7. And this is available to both my US and Canadian viewers. Thanks again to Scentbird for sponsoring this video, and make sure to check out the link in the description. Now, onto the chaos. This is Luiza, a deeply serious law student whose entire personality seems to be angry Bernie bro. This is Valentina, who I can only describe as purposefully provocative with a touch of playful assholishness.
She's me.
The thing is, Luiza hates Valentina more than a Bernie bro hates Hillary Clinton, whereas Valentina wants to f Luiza because she's hot.
I see nothing wrong in that.
Also, Valentina's brother, Igor, is dating Luiza's best friend, Duda. Anywho, Valentina and Luiza get into a very tame political argument, and later Luiza is forced to accept a ride home on Valentina's motorcycle. They share a brief, intimate-ish moment, and Valentina vows that one day she will marry Luiza.
Foreshadowing.
The next morning, Luiza wakes up next to Valentina and immediately assumes Valentina must have drugged her. But then someone's kid walks in and starts calling her mommy.
What did you say?
Also, Luiza looks different and feels different because she's 10 years older, and she's married to Valentina.
How the f did this happen?
After a fair amount of sad piano music and staring off into space, Luiza is diagnosed with dissociative amnesia, most likely triggered by a traumatic event. And if you thought Luiza would ask what that traumatic event was, you'd be wrong, because Luiza is too busy hating everything about Valentina. Later that day, Luiza stumbles upon a collection of her and Valentina's home movies. She starts watching one, but it quickly goes from PG to NC-17. Now, if I were Luiza, I would watch the whole thing, for research purposes. But Luiza turns it off before it gets good. After her no good, very bad day, it's time for bed. But despite having just watched a video of the two of them
Having intimate relations.
Luiza refuses to share a bed with Valentina. And this is the point when I actively started hating Luiza, because
You're an ungrateful person.
after this, Luiza goes on an epic villain arc. She calls Valentina stupid for thinking someone like Luiza would ever marry someone like Valentina, and she admits the only reason she hasn't left is because of the kid. At this point, Valentina, who is literally an angel on earth, has finally had enough and tells Luiza,
Bye.
There's the door.
Now, Luiza does eventually apologize, and even starts being nicer to Valentina, but I still hate her. She also finally agrees to see a psychiatrist, and explains that she feels split between her younger self and older self. I mean, her younger self was militant and self-righteous, whereas her older self seems a bit defanged and accepting of things her younger self never would have accepted, like Valentina as her wife. Luiza then tells her therapist she wishes this was all just a dream, and her therapist is like,
Maybe it is.
and I was like,
Say what now?
after this, I was fully ready for a dream inside of a dream inside of a dream sequence. Instead, we just find out that Luiza is a dance instructor, putting that law degree to good use.
Bruh.
By the way, Luiza's reaction to this makes absolutely no sense, because she's thrilled when she finds out. Like, if I was in law school and woke up 10 years later to find out I am now a professional dance instructor, I would have a few questions. Anyway, while Valentina is showing Luiza around her dance studio, she makes a move on her.
It feels really hot in here. Is it hot in here?
But Luiza somehow finds the strength to reject her very, very, very sexy wife. Back at the crib, Luiza's in the bathroom, topless.
I don't hate this.
While Luiza is topless, Valentina walks in and just stares at her.
I don't hate this.
There's also this unnecessary side plot about Luiza's parents getting a divorce, but not really. Basically, they tell her they're getting a divorce, and she's understandably upset. But in actuality, they're not getting a divorce, but they just told her that to test how she would react to bad news, because apparently there's some mystery bad news that they're keeping from her. It's very convoluted. Valentina and Luiza are now playing this game, where Valentina keeps hitting on Luiza, and Luiza keeps telling her no, but each no gets weaker and weaker. But all good things must come to an end, and they do when Luiza and Valentina have dinner at Igor and Duda's house. Luiza gets drunk and makes a move on Valentina. And I have to shout out Valentina here because this woman has been trying to get some since episode 1. But because Luiza's drunk, she's like,
Nope, can't do it.
Apparently getting rejected made Luiza revert back to the mean bitch she was when she first woke up. And she reads Valentina for filth in front of their family and friends. Long story short, Luiza overhears Valentina tell Igor that she's going to divorce Luiza because
She's a bitch.
Luiza feels bad, but at this point, I feel like that's just her MO. She verbally abuses her wife and then feels kinda bad about it and then gives a half-assed apology. Luiza tries to cozy up to Valentina, but she's 100% done with Luiza. Allegedly. In fact, Valentina keeps trying to have the divorce conversation with Luiza, but Luiza just changes the subject and starts being extremely sweet to Valentina. But eventually, the divorce talk happens, and Luiza begs Valentina for another chance, and Valentina gives it to her, because Luiza is hot. After this, things get a lot better. They're enjoying each other's company, they're flirting and being playful, they dance together and watch their sexy home movies. In fact, Luiza's getting so
Excited.
she has to
Read the Bible.
and she even admits to Duda that she wants to have sex with Valentina. And Duda's like,
You totally can.
after a ridiculous amount of flirting, Luiza finally works up the nerve to kiss Valentina. Luiza then gets a headache because God doesn't want me to be happy. She goes to bed and falls into a fitful sleep, but when she awakens, she's bleeding from the place where ladies, bleed. But it's a lot of blood, and she starts freaking out. But it's okay, because apparently she was dreaming. That's right, she woke up bleeding in her dream. Anywho, Luiza tells her doctor about the dream, and he prescribes her what looked like antacids. Then the doctor and Valentina talk privately about a traumatic thing they're keeping from Luiza. It seems they're concerned that if Luiza knew about the traumatic thing, it might hurt her recovery. That night, Luiza finally lets Valentina sleep in their bed, which made me mad all over again because I'd forgotten she'd kicked her out to begin with.
You raggedy bitch.
That night, Luiza has yet another dream within a dream within a dream, but it literally affects nothing in the plot, so we're just gonna keep it moving. Luiza is still seeing her therapist and admits that even though she feels happy most of the time and has accepted this is her life, she sometimes feels a very deep sadness about something, but she doesn't know what it is. But right now, that doesn't matter, because Luiza has finally realized that Valentina is not only fine as f***, but she's also down to f***. And they do. And for a web series on YouTube, I was pleasantly surprised by the love scene. Obviously, what they can show is limited, but it was decent. The love scene is in episode 8. Now, I'm not telling you that so you'll skip the rest of the show and just watch the love scene, but also, you do you. After they have sex, they tell everyone, and everyone's happy for them, and they live happily ever after. I'm just kidding. Luiza's family has a meeting to discuss whether or not they should tell her about the traumatic thing that happened to her, which I'm guessing is what triggered her amnesia. Also, I don't think I mentioned this, but Valentina is completely against telling Luiza about the traumatic thing. Now, everyone else thinks Luiza has a right to know, but Valentina has been adamant from the beginning that no one is to tell Luiza about the traumatic thing, which seems a little suspicious, but I honestly think Valentina is just trying to protect Luiza. I could be wrong though. Anywho, the two decide to pay a visit to Valentina's parents, and Valentina's mother mentions how no one is using their law degree.
Thank you!
Val and her mom get into a squabble, and Valentina runs off to a treehouse that is there, I guess. And at this point, I was so ready for some treehouse sex. But no. Luiza sees some photos that trigger a memory, and she freaks out. Then we bounce between the present day and the memory. In both, Luiza is freaking out in the treehouse, and Valentina is trying to comfort her. Then both Luizas leave the treehouse, jump into a car, and begin driving erratically. Finally, both Luizas seemingly appear to get into car accidents. And then, that is the end of the first season.
I guess.
I have to say, as a former soap opera connoisseur, this show filled a hole in my soap opera soul that I didn't know needed filling. I'd forgotten how ridiculous and fun they truly are. So if you watch Stupid Wife, let me know what you thought in the comments. Like I said, I don't think it's brilliant, but it is entertaining. I'll also drop a link to Stupid Wife in the description, so you can check it out for yourself. That is it for the video. Thank you once again to Scentbird, and don't forget to check out the description so that you can stop smelling stale.
You got jokes.
I also want to give a quick shout out to my newest patrons, Lisa, Sheila, and Sharon.
I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you.
Also, a quick reminder for my patrons and channel members, I will be hosting an L Word Gen Q Day After the Show podcast where I basically talk shit about the show. Also, my Tar review is now live. So if you're interested in any of that, feel free to support your girl by joining either Patreon or becoming a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any Season 2 Stupid Wife predictions, please let me know down below, and I'll see you in the next one.